Hey everybody, hope you're well. I just hosted this dub today, NFL End of Racism Day, NFL Sunday End of Racism Day. And the reason is that this was the first official day where throughout the league, yeah, it did happen Thursday night, but every team in every city had in its end zone End Racism and Black Lives Matter. Unfortunately, they didn't put it on their uniforms like the NBA put it on their non on the court uniforms, but they were very obvious if you watched NBA playoff basketball, right? But I digress. Think about what happened today. First of all, Cam Newton guided the New England Patriots to a 21-11 victory against a Ryan Fitzpatrick quarterback Miami Dolphins team that a number of people believed were going to win because they pointed out that the Dolphins had had success in previous years recently against the Patriots, and they expected the same. But also, a number of people, a number in the media. When I say people, I'm talking about media types, particularly white media types, because they've been given the biggest platform. Unless, of course, you know how to algorithm around that, but that's another story. They consistently pushed the idea that Cam Newton would not do well, and were seemingly hoping that Cam Newton wouldn't do well with New England. If Cam made one mistake, you could see how things were going by Twitter. There would be a range of tweets saying, oh, Cam started off well, but this isn't going so well so far. It's typical Cam. And then when he was doing well, silence. It's like they were waiting for him to make a mistake so they could amplify the mistake. Where they were far less willing to amplify his successes, what he did correctly. Completely awful. Cam came away with a win. And as I said to my viewers, to my mom, to anybody who would listen or wouldn't, I said, now that Cam Newton has won and Bill Belichek has been vindicated. Oh, so okay, so far, admittedly, you say it's one game. I'll give you that. Okay, fine. All right. But vindicated, Tom Brady really now has to ball out. And it looked like he was going to do precisely that during his first series when the Buccaneers took the ball, went down the field smartly, and scored a touchdown, showing a new ball control passing approach, featuring a nice, nifty play action 45-yard pass from Tom Brady. Okay, cool. But then something funny happened, or not so funny. The New Orleans Saints pulled out a defensive game plan that you must pay attention to if you have NFL Game Pass, because I'm telling you, it is going to be used as the blueprint for other teams to apply to play the Tom Brady-led Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They played press coverage. They played tight. They were, in one word, bullies. And that tight press approach, occasional man, occasional zone, resulted in one glorious pick six interception that reminded everybody of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers' previous quarterback and my favorite, Jameis Winston. Remember how often I've talked about how Jameis Winston was the victim of a bad system? That there was poor coordination between offensive line blocking and receiver depth and pattern, and so on. How I railed that they let it slip that they were going to redesign the offense for Tom Brady, and then I realized they're redesigning the pass pattern aspect of it, but not the offensive line blocking aspect, okay? Not the offensive line blocking aspect, okay? And so here we are in today's game. Sure enough, it was pretty much the same offense, but a lot of the patterns are shortened. There were occasions where you could see that the line was trying to block longer for Brady so that receivers get open deeper, and that wouldn't happen much. And then what occurred was that the Buccaneers defense, which played a whale of a game originally, I mean an outstanding game, eventually wore down from trying to recover from the Tampa Bay offense's mistakes because the Saints defense changed its approach. And on top of all that, okay, on top of all of that, all right, there was a situation where you had, and Raiders SP you're watching right now on this live stream, you know this, that it seemed like as the game started to get away from them, the scoring margin increased. They got away from biting the ball downfield with their short passes, but also they had to because the Saints had clamped down on that game. They said, we're gonna stomp that. We're gonna quite literally press that out of existence. And for all practical purposes, they did. It was an outstanding game to watch if you're a fan of defense, and I am. But what we didn't see from the Buccaneers offense is what we're used to seeing Brady in with respect to the Patriots offense. 5 wide receivers, 1 or 2 steps, quick throws, exotic uses of pass patterns, and so on. Now you would say, well, it's clear they have more time to work together. That invites the assumption that they're going to use all of that. I say no, time will tell. Right now, the Buccaneers are in trouble because cognitively, they've given up their system for Tom Brady just because he had 6 rings, but Brady didn't bring in the Patriots system in its entirety, and he certainly didn't bring in any aspect of the Patriots organization, and that showed. For all of the additions, Brady, Gronkowski, and so on, the Buccaneers' unprofessionalism was on display. And so they couldn't get it together to mount a comeback when it mattered the most. Their comeback was based more on emotion than intellect, the hallmark of Patriots comebacks with Brady, and I think with Newton. So it didn't pan out. Now, so for those of you who would point at Cam Newton and say, well, what about that fight at the end? I'm going to tell you precisely what that was. That was a group of African Americans. It was racist. It was a group of African Americans on the Dolphin side essentially saying to Cam Newton by pulling at his chain, you're still black. In other words, you might have beaten us. You may have made them forget about Tom Brady, but to us, you're still black, so we're going to pull your chain. That was racist. They ought to be fined for it. They ought to be fined for it. Raiders SP on my live stream says that Brady didn't like Belichek and he felt disrespected. I understand that. But you know what? That system that he's complaining about now made him famous and sponsorship rich. I understand he wanted big money down the end. He could have gotten it other places too, like Chicago. But he didn't want to go there because the weather was cold, according to ESPN. He may have gotten tired of winning. He may have gotten tired of a culture of winning. But you know what? I think he's going to get a lot more tired faster of a culture with a culture of losing. Okay? Raiders SP says maybe Arians isn't a good coach. He's not. And I think it's time to really call that. He's great at telling owners what they want to hear. He's great at basically, I call it ascending by assassination. Hey, that person isn't great because they throw interceptions. Broom them and I'll get Brady. Hey, it's always somebody else that isn't quite good enough. Someone else pointed that out on Twitter earlier last week, pointingly saying that in a press conference, Arians made a comment that they were so busy falling behind. And this is something to note, that they were so busy falling behind against the Saints by, like, I think he said 2 touchdowns in the first 4 minutes of the game early on this season. That didn't happen. That was a lie. So you used his situation, his new situation with Brady, to tell a lie about Jameis Winston. You know, and I know, God don't like ugly. Okay? And so what happened? You saw what happened. So let's look at what happened. Lamar Jackson won 38-6 against the Cleveland Browns. And what did Baker Mayfield say? They deserved a punch in the mouth. Kyler Murray won against the 49ers when few gave them a chance. They went into the Lions' Den of 49ers Stadium, Levi Stadium, and came out with a victory. Dwayne Haskins won for the Redskins. So let's do some counting, folks. On this particular day, we had Kyler Murray, Dwayne Haskins, Cam Newton, and Lamar Jackson. All black quarterbacks all emerged with victories, and I may be leaving someone out. Oh, of course, Tyrod Taylor with the Chargers. 5 starting black quarterbacks all emerged with victories on this day. Note this day. It's End of Racism Day. Racism is a mental illness. It makes people see situations and outcomes that aren't there. It makes people think that someone is better because they're white. Even though they won't say that, they'll gloss over the real reason with statistics. That's a form of white supremacy. I'm being blunt here. That approach has done no one any good. And on today, the people who practice it lost. I'm not saying Tom Brady practiced it, but Tom Brady knowingly walked into a situation that was unfair to a black quarterback, took over thinking that he could do better, which would have what? Showed Winston up, right? And it didn't happen. It didn't happen. I'll be back. Subscribe to Zenny62 and bookmark oaklandnewsnow.com.